All of a sudden, I look in the corner, and there's three guys rolling these like really big blunts, like joints. And I'm like, oh my God, what is going on? And this is literally the third day of filming. MTV just gave me this contract, and Nato's looking at me, and he's going, you're gonna get hooked up, you're gonna get hooked up. And I'm like, oh God, I'm in for some trouble. So I'm like, all right, I have to respect the culture, I have to respect, I want him to trust me, I gotta do this. And then I look over at my best friend, who's also the cinematographer on the show, and I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. And he's like, well, just fake it, just like pretend to inhale, but don't. And so I'm like, yeah, that's it, that's what I'll do. So, I see it going around, this blunt, I see it coming around, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm just gonna fake it. Because the last thing I can do is at 1 o'clock be high and filming my MTV show. This is a bad idea from all angles. And so as it comes around, it comes to me in slow motion. And I see it come to me. As it comes to me, 30 dudes, all on this tiny little stairwell, just stare at me like this. Yeah! And I'm like, oh, God, geez, what am I going to do here? So I realized, there's no way I can fake it. There's absolutely no way I can fake this, because they're all just staring at me. So I take one for the team, and I look over at Mano to make sure he's watching, so that he can appreciate that I'm putting myself out there, that I'm a bit vulnerable right now, and I'm willing to take this risk on camera with him. And I sit there and I take the puff and I blow it out and make sure that everyone sees it. And then I look over at Mano. And I'm like, yeah, you like that, huh? I took some of that right there. And I pass it over to him, and he looks at me and he goes, damn, what are you, crazy? I don't touch that stuff. I would never touch that stuff. That's gross. Damn, I did all that, and Nana doesn't even smoke, if you care less if I did. So I think that was just my one example in terms of, everywhere I go, it's always important to try and adapt to the culture or where you are. So this all started. People often ask, where did all this start? How did you get an MTV show? When I was 19, I had a grandfather that I was extremely close with, and I was just moving into college at the time, into my dorm, and I was living with 300 strangers. When you're a freshman in college, you're in your first week, you're living with pretty much just a bunch of strangers. And I would visit my grandfather in upstate New York, and he was pretty much doing the same thing, but just on the other side of life. He was living with 300 strangers also, but it was a nursing home, and they were facing kind of the opposite of what I was facing. They were facing dementia. They were kind of thinking what I thought they were thinking about the past. And I just thought it would be interesting as I experienced him and slowly, he had passed away. I thought, God, it'd be so interesting for me to move into a nursing home and see what it's like for me to understand what it's like to be on the other side of the spectrum. And so I lived, I didn't have really any money, but between myself and a friend, we had saved enough from working at summer camps to buy a couple cameras off of eBay, which is what we did. We borrowed our audio equipment, we had tapes given to us, we borrowed a van, and we called up about 30 nursing homes. And I would call every day. It took me 4 months. I would call all these nursing homes, and I would say, hi, my name's Andrew. I want to move into your home. And they'd be like, okay, that's, you have to fill out an application. And I said, well, before I fill out the application, there's a few caveats. I'm 19. And they would go, oh, yeah, no, we don't do that. There's an apartment complex down the street, but you can't move in here with us. And literally, I'd call. And before I even brought up the idea of cameras, they just kept saying no because I was 19. And that'll go to a theme that I feel like whenever I tell my various stories of filming, it always comes down to never accepting the word no. It's I've heard no so many times in my life, not just with girls, but with a lot of things. That's a pretty good joke. I just came up with that on the spot. I kept hearing the word no, and then finally I found this place in Florida, the mecca of where senior citizens live, And I called them and I said, so I'm 19. And they said, that's fine. I'm like, all right, cool. And I was like, and just another small little thing. I'm going to be I want to film the entire experience with 2 cameras and I need full access. And they were like, huh. And they called back the next day and they were like, yeah, that's fine. And I was like, all right, cool. Oh, and also one more thing. I don't have any money. I'm kind of broke, so I need to live in a nursing home for free. So if you could give me, a room, actually 2 rooms, one for my guy who's filming, and maybe if we could eat also, like if you could give us the food, as bad as it may be, that'd be cool. And they agreed to that also. And people are always like, well, why did they agree to all that? What was their, some parts make them look bad. Like, why would they agree to letting you film in their nursing home? And I have no idea. It's like, it'd be like, and I never asked why. It's almost like if I'm a guy, if I go up to a good-looking girl and I ask her out and she says yes, I'm not going to be like, yes. You sure about that? You want to come with me? So I was like, all right, cool. Like, you let us move in? So we moved in. I moved in thinking it'd be a documentary about old people, and left knowing that it was a movie about Bill, Tammy, Libby, and really a whole host of characters and subjects and personalities that unfortunately were confined within assisted living, but really had a lot to offer society. And so I kind of left, sort of moved by the whole experience. Again, had no money, and edited this documentary in my parents' basement for the summer. And we had about 200 hours of footage, and I just would sit there day and night and just edited this documentary. And to make me feel good, I would put on, I won't say what channel, but I would put on a certain channel and keep that on right next to where I was editing, so that every time I thought like I had nothing and that this whole project was worthless and a piece of, you know what, I would just watch it and be like, you know what, if that can get on TV, damn it, I can get on TV. This is worth it. And so I edited it. I started submitting it to random film festivals because I didn't, I had no ties or connections to the film industry or TV or anything really. And so I just started submitting it to random film festivals and became a hustler of sorts. I would go to festivals with like T-shirts that had my film on it, and just hand out flyers and just go around and tell people to come to the screenings, and eventually gained momentum, and we got into more festivals, and then we started to win awards, and then Australia bought the movie, and then Norway bought the movie, and then Japan, so then all these different opportunities started to kind of come up, and I think it all came back to this idea that we wouldn't take no for an answer. I was passionate about telling the story of senior citizens. It meant a lot to me. It impacted me directly. Every time someone said no, it was kind of like a no to me, but it was also a no to my grandfather. It was like, and I wasn't going to take that. It was like, no, I want to tell this story. This is something that I really care about. And I feel like that's what kind of got me to the point of being able to make that, being able to sell it to HBO and all these things that people now talk about. But at the time, it was nothing more than just a project that I hoped like my parents would watch and not walk out of the room really.